Good day, my name is Terry DeFazio, and you're watching Dial It Up. Today, my guest is Rose Sheehan. She is the director of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug Prevention Coalition for the Northeast Regional Hospital in St. Johnsbury. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Rose.
Thank you, Terry.
How long have you been with this program, or in other words, when did you first start with it?
I first started with the program back in 2001, August of 2001.
Okay. And how has it changed since then?
So I'm the director of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug Prevention Coalition, which in the beginning, it was just a coalition focused solely on tobacco. And over the course of time, the prevention coalitions that were in existence dissipated because of lack of funding. And so, so we expanded our coalition to include alcohol and other drugs as well as tobacco. Mm-hmm. So what we do depends on the amount of resources, the funding sources that we have at the time. But every year we do different initiatives that focus on all substances.
I used to know the substance abuse prevention specialist in St. Johnsbury, and I forgot his name. But it was around 2005 or 2006, and I forgot his name. Great guy. I think his name was Dick or Richard or something like that. Mm. But at any rate, so you're a licensed mental health clinician, and you're an LADC.
Yes.
Tell us what that is, because they're both extremely important.
Okay, so I'm a licensed mental health counselor and a licensed alcohol drug counselor.
So you're dually licensed?
I'm dually licensed.
Okay.
And really what brought me to do that, Terry, was back, I started doing the tobacco treatment work in 2001.
Okay.
And what I was finding is that I always felt like I was doing counseling, something bigger than just tobacco treatment. Right. Almost everyone who was coming into our office to quit tobacco use also had either a current or a history of mental health issues and or substance abuse issues. Mm-hmm. So even though I had already earned a master's degree, I decided I needed to go back to school and get a master's degree in mental health counseling and work towards licensure in order to, for me to really feel like I could help people, truly help people, mm-hmm. to be able to quit tobacco use long term.
Okay. Now, can you elaborate any more on your background? Like, how many years have you been a mental health clinician? How many years have you been in LADC? Because I got my license, I got my certification in 2000. I was one of the last people grandfathered in. Uh-huh. So I know the process, but I don't think our viewers do, so I would like you to tell them that.
Okay, so I've been licensed for about 3 years now.
Okay.
And it's quite a process,
Yes, I know.
Getting through through the school part is pretty tough. And then you have to do 3,000 hours upon graduation in the field in order to gain your license. So I worked on getting my drug and alcohol license first, built up the hours and did that, and then went on to get the mental health license. So, so it's been about 4 years that I've had my licenses, but I've been doing the work for quite some time.
Believe it or not, when I got my certification and license, it was 4,000 hours. Uh-huh. And then, of course, then you have to take what it calls CEUs, correct?
Yes, yeah. Every year you have to
Continuing education units. And
yeah.
how does that work? I mean, I know how it works, but I want you to explain how does that work?
So counselors attend trainings. They can do it in person. You know, like there's lots of trainings that happen around the state, around the New England region. Sometimes people will fly to other states to participate in a training that they think is really valuable. But you don't necessarily have to do that. We can take online courses.
Oh, yes.
So there's lots of opportunities online for people to continue their education.
That was just starting when I was about to leave the field in 2006 or so. Online was just starting, and usually it was, you went around the state. And so there
and it's really important because things change, and we have to stay current and continuously learn and practice.
Oh, of course. And when did you first get into the Vermont Quits program? When did that start for you?
So that I started back in 2001. Well, actually, I would say 1999 is when I got involved with the original coalition. But I was working for a coalition called New Directions, which was a substance abuse prevention coalition. And so because I was part of that, the tobacco work I was very involved in the coalition for tobacco use. I just wasn't employed in it yet. It was 2001 when I became employed to do the work.
Oh, okay. And there are other things other than just substances that people can become addicted to. Do you ever involve yourself with, for example, gambling, overeating, sex addiction, things like? Does that ever come into it, or is it just substances?
It's really just substances.
Okay, all right.
I'm real familiar with the connection with especially gambling and recovering alcoholics. Terry, I didn't share at the beginning, but the reason I do this work is for personal reasons. I am one of 13 children, and I'm actually the only person in my family that didn't smoke. Both of my parents died from smoking-related diseases. My mom died first from emphysema. She actually had a heart attack, which is what typically happens with people who have emphysema or COPD.
Yes, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, and then my dad died 8 months later from lung cancer. But they also both were alcoholics. And so
that's not a good combination, is it?
No, it's not. It definitely speeds up,
I know my cousin John went to Vietnam, came back a very, very bad alcoholic, and between the drinking and the smoking cigarettes, he was dead at 59. And a bad case of PTSD. But please continue. You go ahead.
So that's why it's funny because even before 99, I think it would have been like in 97 or 98, I was an AmeriCorps member with the UVM Extension Office in St. Johnsbury. And at that time, I had gone into the emergency room at Northeastern Vermont Regional Hospital with one of my kids who had an ear infection. And there was a poster on the wall that said, every year more people die from tobacco use than the number of people who die in house fires, car crashes, homicide, suicide, and AIDS combined. Now, I was in my 20s, and it was really, truthfully, the first time I had ever taken a step back and thought, what? I mean, I didn't smoke, but I never really thought about smoking. You know what I mean? I never made that connection until this poster is in my face, and I started to be like, what? And so as an AmeriCorps member, I had the opportunity to teach a program called Choices throughout the Northeast Kingdom, and that was a middle school tobacco prevention program. So truthfully, that's how I got my start, and I started to learn. And the more I learned about tobacco, the more upset I got. I was, became really afraid for my family, my friends who smoke, but I also became really angry that the tobacco industry is allowed to sell a product that kills more people in our country than anything else.
Yeah, and it wasn't up until only, a few decades ago that it was not allowed to be advertised on television either. I don't even remember what year they stopped it, but I remember
it was in the 70s.
Yeah, because I know in the 60s I used to see Lucky Strike commercials.
Yes.
And Camel commercials and things like that. You'd see John Wayne, and who wouldn't want to be associated with that? I wouldn't, but he was the big tough cowboy, and cigarettes killed him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that marketing media has more of an influence on kids than even their peers.
Oh yeah.
So that's how they hook kids. I mean, most people who smoke start between the ages of 10 and 14. There's a problem with that.
I was also, you can tell me if this is correct or not, but I've also seen small documentaries about how when you go into certain stores, especially convenience stores, cigarettes at one time were right at eye level for a child about 10 or even 8. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now in Vermont, now several years ago, they made it so that cigarettes have to be behind the counter. But when you go into convenience stores, you will often see, before you even get in the store, you see the ads plastered everywhere. So even though we've taken that step to move the tobacco products behind the counters, we still have way too much advertising, and that's in what you just called the eye level. We see that, where you'll see a poster or a sticker on a door or a window where little kids, are seeing it, and that's just to make it normal. By when they do that, it's normalizing it for kids, and we know all about the brain development and how influenced kids are by these things.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. And as a matter of fact, it hasn't been banned, but you'll see now that you don't see that much of it like it used to be. It isn't quite as bad as it used to be, especially when it comes to TV ads and that. You'll find alcohol has really stepped in.
Yes.
What really, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but I've gone to a couple, I won't mention the names of the stores, but supermarket chains. At one time you'd see beer, you'd see wine, or you'd go to a state liquor store and you'd see all the hard liquor. Then it got to be, they put alcohol in tea, they put it in cider, they put it, there's another product too, I can't think of, lemonade, and less than a year ago I saw it, then it's now in soda. You have hard root beer.
Yes.
Have you seen that too?
I have,
yeah.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, what does it take? I mean, how many more things are they going to put this addictive substance that it will kill you? It is probably, in my opinion, the second most harmful drug you can take. Some people say it's the most harmful. What's your opinion on that one, Rose?
Well, unfortunately, Terry, I think that this is so complex. The money that is involved and the power that tobacco companies and alcohol companies have in our country, I don't see in my lifetime us being able to, really make a huge change. But the state of Vermont is working on, we have a campaign, counterbalance campaign, where we've been for the past 3 years working throughout communities, talking about the power of advertising and trying to get store owners, educate them, because store owners care about kids, they care about their communities, but they're not me. They don't necessarily understand how if they put these, these huge displays of beer or wine or these products right, when you first walk in the store, they don't understand how the impact that has on young people. So we have to educate them, which we've been doing. However, what we've learned is that they are under contract with these tobacco companies and these alcohol companies. So they don't have, or they perceive that they don't have a lot of control. Like they don't have the ability to just, get rid of it, because in the way one store owner explained it to us one day when we were there, is that if I take down the ads, then the tobacco company is not going to give me the discounts for the cigarettes or the alcohol.
Right.
So that's not where store owners say they make their money, as far as tobacco anyway. So but if I go in there to buy my cigarettes, I'm also going to get my milk and I'm going to get my gas. Now, if the store next door or shortly down the street is going to sell their cigarettes at a lesser cost because they're putting up the ads and getting the discounts, then I'm also going to get my milk there, and I'm also going to buy my gas. And that's where where it really can impact a business. And that's not what anyone wants to see happen. So I believe we have to work on this at a state level. We have to continue to educate the store owners. We have to continue to educate kids, because if you do media literacy, they're less impacted by the advertising and these huge displays. So there's a lot of benefit in educating kids and parents. However, I believe that we need to work at it on a state level so that it levels the playing field for store owners. It wouldn't be really fair for one store owner if they got this concept and they wanted to do the right thing by our kids, and if they were hurt financially by that.
Yeah, I understand it. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
It is.
The store owner's just trying to make a buck and stay in business. And in some cases, they probably don't even use the product themselves anyway.
Right, many of them don't.
But it was like what you talked about. It's kind of the allure of of being able to make money on it. For example, if we lived in the Middle East, say Saudi Arabia, you would not be tempted to buy alcohol because that's really banned over there. Smoking a little hash is fine over there. It's a matter of culture, and our culture being mostly Northern European, the emphasis is on alcohol. If you go to Europe, more people smoke in Europe than they do over here now. There's a lot of people that smoke. Can you explain, I mean, I have my own feelings about this, but can you explain to our audience, why is it so difficult to have a cigarette smoker stop smoking as opposed to an alcoholic or a heroin addict from stopping using that substance?
Sure. So nicotine is probably the most powerful drug that there is. As soon as a person takes a drag on a cigarette or they put chew in their mouth, the nicotine, which is the addictive substance in the tobacco products, hits the brain within 7 seconds. So the positive effect of the product is immediate.
Yeah, what they call a positive reinforcer.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. And so, but it also leaves the body really quickly. So a person, in order to keep their levels, to keep that feeling, they have to use the product over and over and over all day long. So tobacco use is built into a person's entire day. Most substances people don't use all day long. And so it makes it really complex. So I look at it in 3 parts. You have the physical addiction to the nicotine, which is very powerful.
Yep.
Then you have the social addiction, which is the people that you hang with, how you associate smoking with having a cup of coffee, those sorts of things.
And that used to be really big.
Yes.
Coffee and a cigarette. If you used to be able to go into restaurants, and that was, heck, when I remember in the 1960s, you go into a place, I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up in Springfield, Vermont. You go into a place like Idle Nod Restaurant, you see people, coffee and cigarettes.
Right, they go hand in hand.
You won't see that now, though.
Right, no, we've come a long way. It was the same way in bars with, a beer and a cigarette.
Yeah.
So those are the social parts of it, and those are really challenging for a lot of people. And then the third piece of it is the psychological. So that's where people use a product like cigarettes or alcohol to deal with emotion, how to deal with stress, how to deal with strong feelings. What we see is that when somebody comes in to try to quit, they're thinking, oh, I can just put a patch on and I'll be all right. They don't. We have to help them to understand it's much bigger than that. The nicotine is really the simplest part. That's the easiest part. We can deal with that with the nicotine replacement products. The real work happens when people have to get comfortable being in their car without the need to light up a cigarette or have that cup of coffee without doing this. That's where the behavior change happens, and that's the real work of quitting smoking. And so,
that brings me to another question. I've got to tell you, this interviewing you is almost like a walk down memory lane for me, because I remember that all of this stuff is coming back to me. And what are some of the methods that you use to help people quit with substances? And the one that I used to use the most of was called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
Along with some others. But is that a good one for you or not?
It is. Yeah. What we use is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, motivational interviewing, and solution focused. Those are the 3 main strategies that we use. Motivational interviewing is really helpful in the beginning because it helps people to make choices. It helps them to be able to figure out, okay, well, I want to quit, and these are my reasons why, but they don't want to quit. So a counselor who's using motivational interviewing can kind of capture the things that they're saying that they're not necessarily catching on their own about why they want to make this change, like what's gonna build their motivation. So MI really helps to build a person's motivation, help to build their confidence in why they want to quit and how they're going to be able to do it. And the CBT really looks at the thinking. So I have a thought that creates a feeling, and then I react to it. So that is extremely important with this, because smokers, tobacco tobacco users, all substance abuse users have to be able to look at what am I thinking that's creating this angst in me that triggers me to want to smoke, and then change the thought. So really have to delve into the thoughts that are creating these urges.
Right, and you bring up a very good point here. When I worked in the Northern State Correctional Facility as a counselor, we had to learn cognitive self-change. But what we found was cognitive self-change alone wasn't enough, because you could do it all in your head. You had to put it into practice.
You have to practice it.
Which is where the behavioral part,
yes,
which was the part that I was in, was pathways. That was behavior modification. The two of them together. Explain to us why it is so important to combine the two of these things.
Well, because they happen together.
Yeah.
Thoughts become things.
Yep.
You know, that's
if
how
you don't intervene, yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we have to. It starts with the thinking, and in order to change our actions, we have to figure out what are the thoughts that are triggering it, and then make it do something different. What's that? You know, move a muscle, change a thought. Doing something different, and that's not. You know, smokers will say, this is so automatic for me. I don't even think about it.
Oh,
it's just automatic. And so they have to work really hard to become conscious of their patterns, the patterns of use. And then, you know, put in some strategies, like, for example, changing up their routine. Or, you know, I always suggest to people in the beginning, take your cigarettes while you're practicing quitting, wrap your cigarettes in tinfoil, you know, several layers if you need to, and then put some rubber bands around it. So that when you do automatically go reach for this, you have time now to like stop and say, ask yourself, do I actually want this? And make a different choice.
Yeah. It isn't, and also it isn't just a matter of stopping this one behavior. It's a matter of changing a lot of things.
Yes.
You will. I don't know if it's the same with. See, when I was a counselor, I never bothered with people and cigarettes. I had people who could die from heroin or alcohol or whatever. So I really concentrated on that part. But with smoking cigarettes, do you also have to make big lifestyle changes as well? Is that important also? It is,
especially in the beginning for a lot of people, not everyone. But Terry, you know, I want to share, there's a book called The Easy Way to Stop Smoking. And I want to share a part of this because it talks about this. The guy who wrote the book, his name is Alan Carr. And he was someone who used to smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day.
Now that's a bit.
Yeah, my dad did. My father was a 5-pack a day Pall Mall smoker.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the things that Alan Carr talks about in his book is that we as counselors, or as a society really, will use language such as, oh, it's so hard to quit smoking, you know, it's really important to stay away from people who smoke because, you know, it's just going to be too hard. And he says that's very unrealistic for people because all smokers have family members, friends that they really love, and they're not going to trade that off to give up smoking. And he says that the problem isn't being around people who are smoking. The problem is what we allow ourselves to think when we're around people who are smoking. Right. So an ex-smoker oftentimes will say when they're around people smoking, they'll think, oh man, I wish I could have one of those. Oh, that smells so good. And what he suggests is that before you're even in that situation, you come up with thoughts or lines that you say to yourself, that self-talk where you say, boy, am I so glad I don't have to do that anymore. Or, you know, the only reason that person is still smoking is because they're addicted. And that just changing the way we think about it changes the way we feel and how we respond.
Cognitive interventions, yes.
Exactly.
Exactly how it works. What are some of your bigger success stories? Do you have a few people that you can say, wow, you know, that was really, really good that this person finally got it? Well,
yeah, we have several, but one person that I'd like to
I realize you can't say names or anything, but yeah.
Well, this person's in one of our commercials, so people have probably seen him. He's 82 years old, and he had come to our program, him and his wife, together, and it took him 3 attempts before he was able to quit for good. But the reason I like to think about his story is because there are so many people who think, oh, you know, why bother? You know, I've been smoking so long. Why even, you know, what's the sense in quitting? And so he's a real inspiration. Now, his wife, she quit, but it was too late, and she passed away.
No.
And so he continues to come to our program every Thursday from 4 to 5 to be an inspiration to other people. Because his health has improved. He's 82 years old. His eyesight has actually improved. How many older people report that their eyesight is better? And he still stacks wood. He takes care of his own home. So he's a real inspiration.
I wanted to ask you, do the ads showing former smokers with health issues like you see on TV, do you find those effective or not?
Okay, so they're effective with certain people.
Okay, they're effective with certain people.
Yes, adults. More likely they're gonna be more of a positive impact on adults, because young people, fear does not. Fear
we're going to live forever.
Yes, exactly.
We thought that too.
Right. That's just how, youth development, brain development stuff. So, but it does have an impact. It does make smokers and all tobacco users kind of like take a step back, and it's a way of just trying to get somebody's attention. It's not to scare them. It's to show them the truth.
Yeah, reality check.
Reality. Yeah. And we have had many people come into the program and talk about those ads. Some people hate them. Some people hate them. But that tells me it's because it's really touching a nerve. And hopefully someday that person will, have the courage to make a quit attempt.
Approximately how many different chemicals are there in a typical cigarette? Depending
on what study that you look at, there's a lot of studies that say over 7,000 chemicals.
Wow. Get your chemicals here. Well, why should you pick just one or two? Why don't you go for the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. And marijuana has, I don't know, 400 to 600, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But that's another whole story. What happens, we touched on this earlier, but what happens on a neurochemical level when you start smoking?
Okay, so I'm not great at explaining this, but so let me do it the best I can. We use a substance such as nicotine. When it goes to the brain, it triggers the feel-good systems in the brain. So it releases dopamine and serotonin.
Yep.
Okay, and so for some people, probably the people who get addicted to the substances, it's possible that they were born with less of these, or maybe their systems aren't working as optimal as someone else. And so for the first time, they feel good. They feel normal.
Yeah.
And so what do? They continue to use the substance because everybody wants to feel normal. Everybody wants to feel good. But over time, it changes the structure of the brain, of the cells. And so it adds more receptors. So that's why people over time need to use more of the substance. They might have started out, being able to smoke 3 cigarettes, and then the next thing you know, they're not satisfied anymore until they've had 10 cigarettes. Well, now I smoke a pack a day, and maybe you get to be like my dad, who smoked 5 packs a day.
Yeah, and that is tragic. What does a quit smoking plan look like?
Okay, so when in the beginning a person comes in, we look at their smoking history, kind of look at like what role has smoking played in your life up to now? What do you get out of this? What are the reasons why you smoke? And then why are you here? Why do you want to? What would be the benefit of you quitting? What's your motivation? And really identify all of those pieces, and then we teach people about all the different products that are available, so such as the nicotine replacement products, patches, gum, lozenges, but we also educate people about the Nicorette inhaler that's available through a doctor, the Chantix that's available, and also Wellbutrin or Zyban. So we talk about the different products that are available and help people to kind of think about because most people who come to us have made attempts in the past. So we say, okay, well, what worked well for you? What didn't work well? What do you think makes sense for you? So really helping a person figure that out first. We know through studies that people who use some type of medication, whether it's NRT or Chantix or something like that, in combination with counseling, it more than doubles their success rate.
Yes.
So we have a group, and we meet every Thursday from 4 to 5, ongoing. And we also offer individual counseling for people.
Very important.
So we ask people to create a 24-hour plan. That first 24 hours are, really important. And so we'll actually literally have them write down on a sheet of paper, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to get my support. This is how I'm going to stay busy. And it's very individual. You know, some people need to quit on a day that they work because they know they're going to be busy. Someone else might need to quit on a Saturday because they need to be relaxed and alone.
And away from people.
And away from people. So it's very individual.
It's kind of like what we used to do with alcoholics, drug addicts, called a relapse prevention plan.
Yes.
Same sort of idea.
So that would be like session 4 for us. Session 2 and 3, we do a lot of stress management. And then session 4 and 5, we do relapse prevention planning. And that's where people really write down and identify what their triggers are. What are they going to do differently when this happens? When I'm in this situation, this is what I'm going to do.
Identification of triggers is extremely important. Now, do you have a website, an email, phone number that you can share with us?
Okay, so I think the best way for people to get in touch with me personally is to call me at the hospital, and my direct line is 748-7532.
Any extension?
They don't need no extension.
How about an email? ccpgrant@gmail.com. And all of our services are free, Terry. Okay.
And the services that we do at our hospital are also available at many hospitals around the state. So the NRT products are at no cost. The counseling is at no cost. And I strongly encourage anyone to who's been thinking about this at all to come on in and have an appointment to explore it and see if this is a good time for them to make an attempt.
I fully agree, Rose. Our time is up. I want to tell you it has been a pleasure to do this, and we will do it again if you want to. We will make this a regular thing if you'd like.
We would love to do that.
Because I think it's important work. I want to thank you for your time today. This is Terry DeFazio for Dial It Up. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good day.